Hello everyone, this is Mike the Wandering Took. This is not a regular game. In fact, I don't know how I'll be posting this later. Uh, for those of you who are unfamiliar with what Ironman is, every year the Arkham community gets together at some event. The last couple of years it's been BusterCon to basically speedrun a campaign in a day. And this one coming up in September is Edge of the Earth. The idea being that your big challenge is the clock. It is finishing in that amount of time and the brain burn that comes with it. And it creates its own little fun challenge in how do you route this game? What can you skip? What do you have to do? What can you afford not to do? Things like that. So this is just a quick little showcase as I run through some thoughts of how my team's going to go about it. I don't know what this is going to end up looking like at the end. I'm just going to put together some thoughts. Our team is going to have to figure things out later. We're just going to see where this goes. So to start out, we are I'm running a team with Catherine, Paul, and Joe, and we have decided against perhaps saner judgment that we're bringing a team of all guardians to this. That is our challenge. And for something like this, where Edge of the Earth isn't as linear as some of the other campaigns out there, definitely not the previous ones. You kind of have to go in there with what do you want to do, and spoiler, by the way, for anyone who hasn't done this campaign, I'm going to be talking about every ending. Some teams are saying, oh, I want to get the special ending. Okay, great. That's a reasonable goal. That's so they want to get Dr. Kensler on their side, do all of her side quests, and that's what they're going to consider winning. Now, really, finishing is winning is the slogan. As long as you get through it at the end, you have done Ironman no matter what ending you've achieved. So our challenge that we've set for ourselves is to do this as Guardians. So we're going to start with that and lead on to where that goes. So Ice and Death Part 1. Actually, I'm going to switch. No, I'm going to stay up here. This campaign is interesting in that you can actually skip a fair number of scenarios. You have to play Ice and Death Part 1. In fact, will this one let me? Oh, no. It'd be nice to be able to see all the levels at once, but I know what it's going to do if I try to spawn more than one. You have to play Ice and Death, Part 1. You have to play Forbidden Peaks. You have to play City of the Elder Things. And you have to play The Heart of Madness, Part 2. You can do this in 4 sessions. Is that the smartest way to do things? Depends. Really, it depends. What kind of decks you're bringing. Now, I was thinking back on last year. We had a 3-person team, and I believe we played roughly 6 scenarios in that we bailed out of one, turn 1 resign, and then 2 scenarios we played about half. So in the end, about 6 scenarios. And this year we have a 4th player, and 4 players always slows down the game a little bit. So if we shoot for roughly 5 scenarios and maybe have a, hey, if we're doing well, here's what we can do towards the end, maybe that's the way to go. So I want to start with Ice and Death, Part 1, because everyone has to. And we might as well just go through a lot of the decisions at this point. So I'm actually going to start by going to a spreadsheet. Ooh, exciting, hey? Let's see if we can do this here. Okay, hey, so we have, I think Paul brought this one out here. Let me just make sure that this looks visible enough. Oh yeah, it's good enough. This is a nice little table of what all of the tokens do to you in this game. And this is really helpful because in the prologue, right at the beginning of the game, the first choice you have to make is, do you believe Dyer's report of what happened in the Mountains of Madness or not? Either way, you continue with the campaign, but one choice gives you a cultist token, and one of them gives you a tablet token. So it looks like there's some themes here. The cultist token, all the negatives are lower. -2, if you fail, shuffle the top card of the Tekeli Lee deck into your deck. -1, if you fail, move a location. -2, if you fail, place a key. So all of Smaller numbers, but if you fail, something bad happens. The tablet, bigger numbers. I'm seeing a lot of bad things. Tablet, for each point you fail by, -3. Discard the top card of your deck and draw each weakness. -3 if you fail, lose control of an expedition asset. -3 if a frost token is revealed, you automatically fail. Yeah, these are not. I wouldn't even call them even. Okay, so I think Cultist is the way to go, and I think there's no reason not to. That's interesting. Now, you also have to record something in your campaign log, and this is where it gets interesting. There's a lot of things you record in your campaign log that don't do anything. As far as I know, the investigators convincing Dyer to allow the expedition, and the investigators not believing Dyer's report don't do a darn thing. So if someone's wrong, please post in the comments. So it looks like our first decision point. Let's do in our prologue. We're going to convince Dyer to allow the expedition. And that's going to give us a cultist. So next decision point is how the heck we're going to play this game. Now initially you look at the deck, and this particular one has a lot of hazards. That's what this particular scenario is known for, even though the hazards kind of go, they're in most levels, I believe. Whiteout. Attached to your location. Each investigator gets -1 to all skills for the round. Not Ice Shaft, that's not the one. Okay, yeah, no, they're not all hazards, but they're all things that attach to your location. So Polar Mirage, attach to the nearest location with a clue. After you take control of a clue, yeah, not after you investigate, after you take control, you discard each non-weakness card in your hand. No, that's awful. And Through the Ice, this is one that prevents you from leaving unless you take a fleetness test. So lots of those. Very few monsters to start. Eventually some monsters come into play later, but they're not that awful. They give you Tekeli Lee cards. And we were looking at some of these must cancels. This is a bad one, a Pyrophobia. Test Will X, where X is your location's shelter value. If you fail, you must decide to do something horrible. Placing a frost token in the chaos bag is generally considered bad. Placing 2 clues on your location can be good if you have that. Otherwise, take a horror for each point you failed by. The Crystal Caverns has a shelter value of 8. So if you're in the wrong spot, that can be extremely bad. It is very likely we're going to be at shelter 4 or higher. So looking at that, that's probably something we want to save our Ward of Protections for. At least that's what I said until we played the game. And then we pulled 6 of these Ancient Evils, and I'd forgotten how many times these things come out in a 4-player game. That is a lot of actions you lose. So perhaps this gets split. Yeah, we'll see. I should probably mention, while we're on the topic, I said we're playing all Guardians. Which Guardians are we playing? At the moment, we have Wilson, the handyman. It is Wilson, yeah. Catherine's playing Wilson. Joe is playing Carson. Paul is playing Mark, and I am playing Carolyn. So Wilson and Carolyn are generally on the clue side. Carolyn can't have weapons, so she's the least combat ready, although she can take dynamite. And of course, Mark's going to be our bruiser, and Carson is just giving people whatever they need. It's fantastic. We did a test run on the first scenario with a lot of safeguards in play, and it was hilarious how many actions we were going to save. Now, I wish there was a button here to pull out all of the locations. So I think I'm just going to have to put them into play here. Ooh, yeah, something else I want to do. This application is fantastic because it shows you how every location is connected to all of the others. This level is weird. because everything, it's meant to be a mountain with a bunch of concentric rings that get smaller and smaller as you go up to the top. And it looks fine when you're looking at it with all these lines, but without those lines, it is really difficult to tell what connects to what. So I've also got a separate little chart here of other things we want to bring. Because not only do you want to bring your token bag, you want to, don't forget your frost tokens, don't forget your blessed curse tokens, and don't forget I'm going to say extra tokens for City of the Elder things, because you do need, that's the one where you're finding pairs of keys, and I think you need 2 skulls, 2 tablets, 2 cultists, and then 2 +1s, -1 zeros, yada yada. So you definitely want more than what you think you need for a campaign. And we want some kind of arrows for ice and death for connections. Now the route that we had decided on, well, initially that we planned on, was start at the crash site. Apparently, if you go and do the first 3 locations, these are all locations that you can just enter freely, and in a 4-player game, they all have 4 clues. Fantastic. All the locations that attach to these, you have to use up 4 clues to open them. From these locations, I guess to get to Snowgraves, yeah, actually, all, oh yeah, here we go. So the 3 corners of this triangle here, so it's starting from Snowgraves, and up here, Icebreaker Landing and Frigid Cave, these all require 8 clues to open. And then the Barrier Camp, the Remnants of Lakes Camp, and the Crystalline Cavern are all going to require 16 clues. You see the issue here. So we can't explore the whole map in one game. And in fact, our route was to start from the crash site, go up to Treacherous Path, to the Ice Sheet, down to Frozen Shores, and then go down all the way to the Snowgraves and then to Crystalline Caverns. We did it with 0 actions to spare. That's how little time we had, and I blame Ancient Evils for it. So I believe this time we're going to do Crash Site, Treacherous Paths, Ice Sheet, Frozen Shores. This gives us 12 clues, which is enough to open Broad Snowdrifts with 8 to spare. The Snowdrifts have 8 on them, so we can use all the clues we've discovered from this location and all the prior ones to open up the Crystalline Caverns. Now, why Crystalline Caverns? Because there's plenty of locations that we have to get to. The goal of this is to, well, camp somewhere. And we can, if you camp at the highest shelter values, you get the most benefits, some of which matter, some of which don't if you're doing a speedrun. The reason why we want to do Shelter 8, 3 reasons. 1, experience points. You get 8 experience just by clearing all the clues off this and resigning. That is wonderful. And in this campaign, there is exactly 1 encounter card that gives you experience points in the encounter deck. In the whole campaign, that is the Rampaging Shoggoth that appears in 2 scenarios, maybe. So all your experience is going to come from what you do on the map. Secondly, for every point below 8, you potentially lose a partner. And you can get them back, but that involves playing Ice and Death Part 2, and if you want to save time, you don't want to do that. And the third reason is a little selfish, and that is because I'm playing Carolyn with the Ancient Stones, and I want to get the maximum possible possible value on the stones. Deciphering the stones, or whatever the equivalent translation is, requires me to pass an investigate test equal to Shroud +3. And the higher the value, the better, because then your upgraded Ancient Stones start with that many charges on them. And the one I'm going for is the one that lets me heal Horror and after I draw cards, because that just kickstarts a whole bunch of fun engines. And having 8 really accelerates the deck in future levels. So I'm just going to say that. Goal is to, camp, at Crystalline Caverns. And this path of Frozen Shores, Treacherous Path, Ice Sheet to Broad Snowdrifts to Crystalline Cavern works. And then from there, we can, if we have time, we can go anywhere else. We will have an extra 12 clues. We can open up the crags. We can go back to the snow graves. Why do you want to do that? Because of supplies. We have the spare parts at the crash site. In fact, can I actually put these down? Ooh, I'm going to put these down. Yeah. Oh, yes. The other thing we want is we want the miasmic crystal from the Crystalline Cavern. Because this is a pretty good asset. When an investigator draws it to Kelly Lee, spend a charge, you cancel the weakness, get rid of it, and draw a card. It's wonderful. And having this prevents either, I think it's a mental trauma later in the game. It might be a frost token. The green soapstone is down here. It's really useful because whenever you perform an attack, you can spend a charge and exhaust it to just get +1 damage. That's pretty nice for Mark, especially in this campaign with a lot of 3 and 4 hit point enemies. The sledge is hiding at Lake's Camp. I've played some characters that love the sledge, some characters doesn't do anything. It is a lot of clues to get through there. It's another 16 to open up Lake's Camp. I don't see us doing it, realistically. The spare parts are at the starting location. You get money. Not bad. If we're tight for time, is it worth picking up? Debatable, depending on who you are. The barrier camp, which we're probably not going to get to, has the dynamite. Icebreaker Landing has the small radio. Interestingly, or you can remove a snowflake from the bag. That's pretty useful. The radio's nice. Use any ability from any expedition team member not in play. And then the mineral specimen is way up in the frigid cave. I don't know if I've ever gotten this in my playthroughs. It's pretty good. Investigate with a base skill of 5, cancel each frost token. If you succeed, discover an additional clue. It's kind of nice. That one, again, takes a lot to get into. Well, it takes 8 to get, no, only 4 to get to the crags and then 8 to get to the cave. Okay, you could technically maybe do that from if you have all the clues on Crystalline Caverns. That's a possibility. Okay, so if you look at our route, we have the possibility of getting spare parts, which I'm just going to write down, get spare parts, and get the miasmic crystal. And then this last one, get the green soapstone, is a stretch goal. That's probably the one we're going to need more. So Ice and Death Part 2, we can skip. Then there's Ice and Death Part 3. This one... let's see, this one's got some big enemies. We have 4 Seeping Nightmares. And the location of these Seeping Nightmares in Ice and Death Part 3 depends on where you camped. If we camp at the Crystalline Cavern, then we get one of them here at Lake's Camp. We get the Barrier Camp and Icebreaker Landing. Icebreaker Landing, Barrier Camp, and then I believe one is at the starting location, isn't it? Yeah, the crash site. So, looking at our route and what we have opened up at this point, the only one we can reach is the one at the crash site. But we can reach it. We can't reach anything else unless we get the clues to open it up. That's always a possibility. This scenario is on a timer. You have 6 enemies, maybe it's 8, divided amongst these 4 creatures, and then every couple of rounds they spawn a creature, and they are directly connected to your camp. So you're just getting flooded. And you can only win by killing all the Seeping Nightmares, or you run away by resigning at your starting location, I think. Now, why would you choose or choose not to do this? You would choose to do this if you wanted a chance to get some more supplies. If you kill all of the Seeping Nightmares, you get 5 experience. In a 2-player game, there's only 2 of these. That's much easier to accomplish. In a 4-player game, getting all those clues, that is a harder ask. But if you kill 1, you get 2 experience. So there is a possibility of us just running into the crash site, killing a Seeping Nightmare, running back and resigning, and that's it. Maybe we can think about, oh, if we haven't gotten the soapstone yet, just do that. It could be a way for us to catch up. So let us stick a pin in that one. Ice and Death Part 1, I'm going to bold the ones we have to do. We want to camp crystalline caverns, and we want to get the miasmic crystal, right? Ice and Death 2, skip. Ice and Death 3, kill 1 Seeping Nightmare. If you kill 3 Seeping Nightmares, you get the same experience as if you killed 1. So I just don't see it being worth it. But if we can get the green soapstone, there is definitely some value in playing this scenario. Now I have a big document with all the decision points, everything that happens at various points. Like what happens when you advance certain agendas, yada, yada, yada. And, oh yeah, our starting at resources in this scenario is equal to our camp shelter value, which means we all start with 8. Oh, the penalty for taking this scenario is to add a frost token. That is not a nothing ask, especially if Claypool dies in the plane crash, because then we have no way of getting rid of them. We'll have to bring that to the group's attention. We can decide how much is a frost token. Taking some partners is mandatory depending, okay, that's only if you lost partners in part 2. We're going to ignore that. So, oh yeah, that's part 2. Part 3, the attack. So you can either flee to the mountains and skip this, or you proceed to Ice and Death Part 3. So if we flee the mountains, we skip it completely. If we kill everything, then we've defeated the creatures. If we don't kill them all, then we resign. Oh, R2, the team fled to the mountains. I believe if you resign, you also flee the mountains, and that's really important because if you flee to the mountains, you get to read in an extra interlude, or you get to interact with another character in the interlude. I'm going to jump back to this for a moment. We're going to recall Ice and Death 1, put in Ice and Death 3. I want to see what happens if we resign. If each undefeated investigator has resigned, advance. If we advance by resigning, R2. And R2 has fled to the mountains. So that works. I really like that. So I'm just going to put resign early. Okay, so that gives us a chance to talk to our team members. Let's clean this up a bit, because I have been not mentioned one of the really important parts of this campaign, and that is your expedition members. take all these away. So initially my thought was, let's just play all the scenarios that we have to play and get rid of all the rest. And then Catherine was like, really? We're not doing Fatal Mirage? And then Paul was like, I'm playing Mark, and, that healer is really good for Mark. Okay, so that opens up another possibility. Let's say we want to focus on a certain set of team members. Let's throw them out over here. We can guarantee that some of them stay alive, barring the initial plane crash. And there's a couple ways to handle it. Either you suck it up, or you say, you know what, for that first plane crash, we're just going to give someone plot armor, whatever. Like, we just want this one person to survive. We'll live with whoever else does it. That's another thing people can do. And I think that was to allow, hey, what if you want to get the Dr. Kensler ending? You don't want to have all your plans go out the window because of a random card draw at the beginning. Now, what happens after that? Yeah, that's on you. Just a moment here. There we go. So you can force the way to get around that is to get a resolute version of one or more of these characters. So let's say we want to keep Dr. Mala for our lovely Mark player, which, my goodness, her resolute version, I think it's fast action to heal you. That'll be so good for him. The way to go about that is to get her resolute, which means playing Fatal Mirage and completing her side story. That requires 3 people dying. Now, you can do that naturally through the storyline, or we could force the issue in Ice and Death Part 1, because the next story moment that kills someone is halfway through Up the Forbidden Peaks. So if we're done Ice and Death 3, and there's fewer than 3 people dead, then someone else is going to die. So if we want to make sure that Dr. Malva stays alive, then we need to kill 3 characters. So an option is we start Ice and Death 1, and thank you, Ben, for bringing this to my attention. You start Ice and Death Part 1 with 3 characters you don't care about, and you let them die. Now, about that. Rolled Ellsworth in the first scenario, when you have a bunch of Guardians doing a Congo line with Safeguard, turns out to be really important, because you can bypass a treachery for every character by blanking it during one person's turn, and then everyone's safeguarding away with that character. It is a great way of not having to deal with some of the worst ones out there. And with 4 characters, you're probably going to have at least 2 treacheries attached to your location every turn. That's not an exaggeration. That's what we found. Unless you split up, which we can do, and you can strategically do that if you want to try to avoid treacheries on a location. So let's say we want to take him. We don't want him to necessarily die. I mean, we could. We just have to time it really well. Like, maybe clear the clues from Crystal Caverns and then get him to die. But the timing on that, like, you have to have an enemy there. I guess if the Terror in the Stars is there, you can force an attack of opportunity. That's an option. But then you take 3 people you don't want. And who's like, if you're not doing Dr. Kensler's ending, maybe you don't want to. Maybe you're okay letting Kensler take it. Maybe we're okay with Takata. Maybe we're okay with Cookie. I know, they can be great. They can be great, but whoever is not important to your deck, and then you walk into Fatal Mirage. So let's look at Fatal Mirage. Let's follow this thread and see where it lands. You can play this scenario multiple times. Ideally, we only want to play it once. I'm just going to put all the locations into play. And I want to see Which characters are connected to what? Oh, they are somewhat connected together. Okay. Oh, some of these are one-ways? Yikes. What is this one connected to? Base camp, the university. Oh, okay. So this one's all in the middle. Every location ends up here at some point. There's a lot of locations. Yeah, this is going to get really ugly. How on earth? Okay. One moment. I do believe that someone on the Mythosbusters forums may have put out a handy little chart to at least help me do this. Give me a moment. Okay, Prison of Memories we're going to put right in the middle, right here. Then we have the base camp. We're going to put that right here. We have the deck of the Theodosia and the university halls. The deck of the Theodosia we're going to put here. This is going to go somewhere else. University halls we'll put down here. So that's your first triangle. From the base camp, you have the deserted station and the Alaskan wilds. Oh, I see. I see why the arrows are the way they are. Because you can go backwards to the Prison of Memories. Okay, that's why it's just so confusing in this one. Okay, let's get Kensler's office out of here. Let's put it over here. We need coastal waters and the airfield. Coastal waters up here, airfield up here. And the Ottoman front is going to go up here. There should be a hedge maze somewhere. Hedge maze. Oh, like statues. Standing stones are going to go here. Where's the dormitory? That goes all the way down here. Oops. Blackstone goes there. Dyer's classroom. Clutter dormitory. University halls. Kensler's office. The infirmary is going to go up here. And the review theater is going to go up here. And the other chamber is going to go there. Okay, so this is still a bit of a mess. But we've got a little bit of structure to this. I wish there was a way to just make the clues go away. So we have the Prison of Memories all the way at the beginning. 3 locations around it. And then each one of those connects to... Yeah, so the Riverview Theater connects to both the Elder Chamber and the base camp. And the base camp connects to the coastal waters, as does the deck of the Theodosia. And the halls and Theodosia both connect to the Standing Stones. And then from there, everything at that point, there's either one thing, the hedge maze goes only to the statues, deserted station goes only to the Alaskan wilds, or you have the ones that go to 2. The coastal waters can go to these 2, Standing stones can go to these two. I'm going to put them here so it's a little more obvious that they're connected together and only together. Now, let's say we want Mala. I'm going to put a big, giant resource token here. Her side story is at the infirmary. If you are at the infirmary, that means you went to the Riverview Theater, which means Dr. Kensler's office is right there. Why does it have to be Kensler? Good to know. Good to know that Kensler's there. Now, let's see. What if we want Avery Clayfield? Avery is at the Standing Stones. No, through the Standing Stones to the Blackstone. This is Avery, and this is Danforth. Danforth is not a bad character. I wouldn't be turned down Dyer either, because Dyer's really good for Carolyn. However, I actually think less good because Dyer has a lot of sanity soak and no physical soak, and Carolyn does need the physical soak. So I feel like that's a lower priority target. This might be a little bit of back and forth. I mean, you can go, if you go University Halls, directly through the theater to the infirmary, and then backtrack to the Standing Stones, and then do the classroom in the Black Stone. That might be our run. I feel like that's kind of the next best way to go. And if we don't... Oh, wait, I got this wrong. This is Dyer. That's Dyer's classroom. This one here, that is Danforth. So that means going through the Elder Chamber. Okay, at this point, it's going to get a little spotty because we don't know who's died in this plane crash. So maybe we look at this bottom half and just say we'll try to get characters in this one, and then we'll rank the order that we want them. I think that's the way to do it. So I'm going to say Ice and Death Part 1. Get 3 partner assets dead. Then we have Fatal Mirage. We want to finish Dr. Mala's quest. And then we want to rank them. Probably Avery's quest would be the next one, because getting rid of frost tokens is really good. Finish Danforth's quest, I think, is maybe a next one. I mean, if anyone else has any suggestions or rebuttals, please make your case in the comments. And since we're really close to the others, we do have Dyer. And we do have Kensler's. Not bad. So let me get this route. This goes Prism of Memories to University Halls. To Riverview Theater. To Infirmary. Then from University Halls, you want to go to the Standing Stones, to Blackstone. And Danforth is University Halls to Elder Chamber. To the Clutter Dormitory. And then Dyer is Standing Stones to the classroom. And then Kensler is Riverview Theater to Kensler's office. So that is a tentative plan. Kind of the more the merrier. So if we clean all this up, oops, the Forbidden Peaks. Oops. The good news about the Forbidden Peaks is that it doesn't actually require a lot of planning. There are 5 random locations. 2 are put away, never to be seen, and the summit. Each of these locations has 0 to however many clues, and you have to get every clue off the location in order to open up the next one. When swept path, after it's revealed, yeah, place clues on it. After anyone moves to it, you place clues on it. So, fun stuff. This one is another scenario where we are... Oh, I'm still in this mode. Sorry, you're still in my spreadsheet because I was going to change back to it. Forbidden Peaks. If you don't make it to the summit, we basically just miss out on experience. One experience per location. But you get to read an additional entry in the interlude. Is that worth it? I don't know. Kind of depends what we want to do. I mean, ideally, we want to read Claypool's entries whenever possible to remove frost tokens. Ellsworth might be good because it gives you a kickstart on every one of the main scenarios you have to play. You start with a clue or you start with something revealed. And then there's things like getting rid of trauma, getting rid of Kelly Lee's, things that might happen depending on, the RNG of the scenario. So do we need 4 every single time? I don't know. I do like this experience because it's our next best chance of getting a whole bunch of XP. I can't remember how much you get out of Fatal Mirage, but I don't think it's much. I think it might be 1 per Resolute character you get, at most. And once you flip to Agenda 2, there is a big bad guy that... Oh, yeah, this is the one with the expedition supplies. So if we have... Let's put a couple things down here. We have the miasmic crystal at the bottom. We might have the spare parts. We might have the soapstone. You have to spend an action to pick up an asset, and you carry it up the mountain. And lots of treacheries will cause you to drop it. And then fall down the mountain. We are packing 4 copies of Open Gate to help us get through all of this. That's between Carson. Carson's got the mystic aspect, and of course, Carolyn does too. When you get the halfway point, the Terror of the Stars comes out, randomly kills someone, and then everyone at the highest... He's at the location, the highest one revealed, or the highest one with investigators. With 1 or more investigator, and each person there drops all of their stuff. This is why it's hard to get 8 supplies to the top of the mountain. So I think we just try to get as much as we can, because everything's worth XP. And if we don't make it, we don't make it. I don't know. If 1 or more investigators have resigned, you proceed to R1. Otherwise, you proceed to R2. And I did it again. Sorry about that. No? Oh, it's in this one here. You find another way through the mountains if you're defeated. So the bad thing about being defeated is that you lose your partners. So if you have anyone that's resolute, they're gone. That's pretty bad. So we're going to want to climb to the summit or resign. Or sorry, or doom out, I should say. Because if you doom out, it's simply, it's R1 or R2. Which, according to my notes, I don't think anyone dies. Nobody actually dies. So you're not defeated, you don't lose your partners. So I'm going to make a note in my path here that for to the Forbidden Peaks, get as high as you can, try to resign, or doom out. Pretty darned easy from a decision standpoint. The other decision is which supplies you want to carry up. You do get experience for every supply that someone takes in their deck. Or rather, that investigator does. So if someone gets to take spare parts, that is worth 1 XP for 1 character. So it's something, but not necessarily, not the best. Let's recall that stuff. City of the Elder Things, and this is where it gets kind of cool because normally this is kind of random. Which scenario you play of the 3. But you can game it, apparently. Thank you, Ben, for opening my mind to that one. You can game which one you play based on who's alive and who's dead because your party votes on it. And if we have, let's see. I'm just looking at my book here. Dr. Mala votes for Path 1. Danforth votes for Path 2. Claypool votes for Path 3. What that tells me is that this is going to be bloody random. Yeah, because if we wanted all of one group to be alive, then we would absolutely know which path we're going to. Now that said, I'm just looking through the book at what the difference is. There's a difference in the map. As far as I can tell, actually, does this actually set the map? Whoops, not that one. Not that one, please. Oh yeah, it's not gonna. Oh, it does. It does. You can set it up for group 1. Ooh, look at that. There we go. Where everything is in roughly a diamond shape. Oh, I want to reset the. I want to reset it. Oh, I can. Okay. Group 2. That didn't quite work. That didn't quite work. Okay, so the second one is more of a triangle shape without the base, and the third one is like a diagonal line. They're all... It's such a random scenario. What's interesting about this one is that the outcome you want, this is one where you really have to ask, what actually do you want? So if you doom out, nobody dies. Again, you're not defeated. You get to speak with someone else in the night. That's almost a benefit. It's a little catch-up mechanic. So what do we want to get out of this scenario? In terms of victory points, you get victory for, there are 2 versions, 2 paths. Path 1 and Path 3 have a copy of Rampaging Shoggoth in the deck. If you want to take it on, that is worth a victory point. This map has 2 copies of the Labyrinthine Chamber. Each of them has a victory point. And there we go. Each time a chaos token is revealed during a skill test, double its modifier if a key matching that chaos token is on this location or under the control of an investigator at this location. And it's got a lot of clues on it. That's why it's worth victory. So that's another option. But then you also get victory for each pair of keys spent. Now you're going to need, if I'm reading this correctly, there's the 3 special tokens, your cultist, your broken tablet, and your skull. Each path requires 2 of them to advance. And then the third one does something funky. So in version 1, the cultist lets you heal a damage, a horror, and a trauma from everybody. In version 2, the broken tablet is everyone removes all Tekeli leaves from their deck. And then the third one, the Elder Thing token, says remove all Elder Thing tokens from the Chaos bag. What? I mean, that's generally considered the worst of the symbols. And in fact, they're all -4s if I look at this cheat sheet. So if you're looking for making your end game easier, if you could game version 3, that's an option. That means having Dyer, Claypool, and Cookie alive. I don't know if we're going to do that, but that is something I'm going to post to the group. That is an interesting point. But apart from that, if you can get the zeros, you get to add a 0 token to the Chaos bag forever. If you get a -1, you can either remove a Doom, a non-elite enemy, or a Treachery. That's just an in-game thing. Fine, whatever. It's worth an XP. -2s, you get to remove 2 Frost tokens from the bag. Oh, and gain 2 cards and 2 resources. But you get to remove 2 Frost tokens. And then the -3s, an investigator reveals 3 locations and discovers a clue from each of them. So not 2 of them I would say are okay effects, and 2 of them are what? Great. But you got to find them, and you don't necessarily know where they are. Now here's another point. For all of the numerical value keys, you write something in your campaign log. The team photographed the astronomical charts. The team discovered an ancient vault. The team studied the mural carvings. Yada yada. Again, these do nothing. Unless I'm missing something, that is just story flavor. It doesn't actually do anything. So, perhaps what I should be writing down are the ones you really want to go for. I think that's, yeah. Yep. City of the Elder Things. Can we get V3? So if we get V3, we want to spend the Elder Thing keys. Then you want to spend the, what's the next best thing? Probably the one that removes the Frost tokens. That's the -2s. Spend the -2 tokens. And then, but spend the 0 token, because that adds a 0 to the Chaos bag. Put that in. I won't bold that. Yeah. Doesn't matter if we resign or doom out. What are the consequences for dooming out? Is it really nothing? No, it can't be. Just R2. Huh. I know in some of them it's draw a bunch of Tekeli Lees. Like the very first level, if you let that one doom out, everyone earns a Tekeli Lee and is forced to resign. So that is, yeah. We can doom out. So what do we, really? Is there really no benefit to leaving? Here's the hidden tunnel. Okay, it's worth victory. Hidden tunnel is worth victory. We can doom out, but try to resign. So far, what have we got? We're playing Ice and Death 1. We're doing a few rounds of Ice and Death 3. We're playing Fatal Mirage, playing Forbidden Peaks, playing City of the Elder Things. We are playing 4 scenarios, 4.5. At this point, we probably only want to play the last scenario. So I'm going to recall those. But I'll set up this one anyways, just however this one gets set up. Oh, this is the really big map. This one at least is fairly intuitive for it doesn't require all the strings to show connecting locations. Because it's all in rings. You just count how many points you are away from the center. So in the first one, your goal is to pick up the special keys. Where are the special keys? Aw, I'm sad. Special tokens aren't in here, in the mod. Okay, you want to play this campaign if you want to get those keys. What do the keys do? The keys give permanent benefits in the last scenario if you use them at the right place at the right time. So here's some things you have to keep in mind. If you play Heart of Madness Part 1, which is the only Part 1 that you're allowed to skip, one partner has a chance of dying. So it's the other story moment where someone dies. You can avoid that story moment simply by not playing this adventure. However, it's also the one where they could potentially be saved. This is the one where if Danforth is the one chosen to die, but Dyer's alive, Dyer saves Danforth. And likewise, I think Kensler saves Mala. And there's a whole tree in them. So you can probably gain this too if you really wanted to, but again, with the randomness of the plane crash, I'm not sure I want to do that. But it's an interesting point to note. This scenario gets harder when you're carrying a key. So you're going to be walking, you're trying to find, here we go, you're trying to find a location that has a dormant seal on it. You want to pick up the seal, and then you want to place it, you want to send it somewhere else to be activated. And then once it's activated, you want to send it back to the Gate of Yuka and seal it. If there are 2 activated seals in the same location, the world explodes. Game over. So that's one way out of Ironman. There is something to keep in mind. You get experience for every activated seal in play, even if it's not at the Gate of Yuka. The only reason for sealing them at the Gate of Yuka is so that you don't blow up the universe accidentally. If you don't have them at the gate, you still get to carry them into the next level. That's fine. So if you find yourself in that last round and you can activate a seal, just activate the seal. It's no problem. What you actually don't want to do, and this isn't obvious at first glance, you don't want to carry dormant seals with you. Reason being is because in the next level, you carry every seal that you have found with you. And if you're carrying a dormant seal, you can't do anything with it, which means you are always going to be carrying a seal, which means you are always going to be, quote, at a location with a seal for all the purposes of the negative effects on chaos tokens and cards. Whereas if you're carrying an activated seal, at least there's a way you can get rid of it somewhere for a benefit. So that's something for those of you who want to play this to keep in mind. And again, it's random, so I don't know how you'd properly route this. I really don't. So you can get up to 5 experience, plus as a rampaging Shoggoth in here. So 5 or 6 experience max if you are really, really good. I don't know. Don't think I'm going to do it. In the final scenario, it's almost the same, but you have, what is the 5 locations? Are they all? I can't remember if they're all randomly placed or not. You have the, yeah, it looks like. You have these mist pylons. Oh yeah, the mist pylons are they randomly placed or are they at the points of the star? I believe they're randomly placed. Yeah. Okay. But you must know where they are. Yeah, so you know exactly where they are because they have a different card back than all the rest. Yeah, there's an additional rule that says if all the mist pylons are, next to the starting point, then redo the map because you can't enter them unless you spend clues. So the goal of the final level of the game is to get out of here, destroy all the mist pylons, and get out. When you're at a mist pylon, there's different ways of destroying them. You can either attack it, and its fight value is equal to its shroud, and its health value is equal to its clue value. Or you can discover clues, and after you discover them, spend the clues to deal that amount of damage to the mist pylon. And then if you have the right seal, you can just place it and something awesome happens. And again, you cannot plan for this because everything's bloody randomly placed. But here's one. Whenever anyone would be dealt damage or horror, if they're at a mist pylon, you cancel one of them. For the remainder of the game, each investigator gets +1 to each of their skills while they are at a mist pylon. They're really good. You just can't bank on any one of them coming out. So I'm going to step back to my notes for a sec. I'll leave this here. There is another thing worth noting. If you have not done the Dr. Kensler route, the little side quest we were following our notes, that's the special ending. It doesn't do anything. But if you haven't done it by now, when the first agenda spawns, every investigator draws all to Kelly Lee cards from their deck, one at a time, and then shuffles them all back in. That could potentially be really bad. Just know that's a thing. That might be a reason to do Kensler if she survives the plane crash. Let's see. Something to note, the fight/shroud values of the mist pylons are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Their clue/health values in a 4-player game are 4, 8, 8, 12, and 16. If you doom out of this, then you get to the next stage where you're trying to escape. So the question is, why would you try to kill all the mist pylons without dooming out, or as opposed to dooming out? And one of the reasons is time. Just try to get out of here in as few rounds as possible. The other reason is that it impacts how many bad guys are in the final gauntlet out. I'm going to get rid of all of these. And pull. Oh, there are the seals. There they are. Do they light up? I'm not even seeing them lit up. Oh well. Titanic Ramp. That's the one. So you've got the way out, which is that the hidden tunnel? Yeah. And then you have a bunch of ramps. And I think they're all in play. Yes. Each of these locations is roughly the same. If you want to move to a location to the right, pass a fleetness test, or spend a clue to auto-succeed. And the tests change. They go from 1 to 4. And if everybody is at the hidden tunnel, you advance the act. This is the scenario with the bad guy that keeps growing in size. That is the nameless thing. The actual text on this, let me read this. If you destroy all the mist pylons, you remove every single nameless madness except for 3. Otherwise, you remove 3 for each mist pylon you have destroyed. So if you've destroyed 1 and you've doomed out, to doom out you always have 15 of these. So that means you're starting with 12 in play, which could be really bad if you get stuck, because if you recall their mechanic, you have to, when you attack 1 or evade 1, for each point you succeed by, you can exhaust the nearest ready enemy. So if there's 3, you can evade them all in one shot. If there's 12, that's going to take you a few hits. Good luck getting out. So that's a pretty good reason to dismantle those pylons. Yuck. They are massive, though. So if you can evade a few, then leave. There's definitely ways. Yeah, maybe with some tricks for fast picking up clues, you can get out of this. But my goodness, starting with 12 of those things, and that's it. It is run to the end. And I don't think you can doom out. Nameless Madness gains Hunter. When 1 or more doom would be put in play, instead spawn a set aside Nameless Madness at the leftmost investigator's location. So you either get out or you die. And that's that. So I'll go back to my notes. Paths. Heart of Madness 1. I think we skip. Skip. Unless this, I believe we're open from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. So if we say 2 hours for the last scenario, because it's a long one, maybe if we say unless it's less than 8 p.m., maybe. We can discuss that as group. Heart of Madness 2. Break the mist pylons. And then get out. So strategy-wise, yeah, that's it. This is a very front-loaded scenario for strategy. Now, since we're at this table, let's talk about partners. Partners, and you could probably add supplies to this list. For almost every character, if you lose them, you're going to take a bad effect. It's either going to be physical trauma, mental trauma, frost tokens. I think that's or weaknesses. So I believe if Mala is dead in scenario 3, you take the frostbite weakness, and if Danforth is dead, you take the. Oh, if Dyer is dead, you take the possessed weakness. Yeah. If Cookie is dead, now, there's a couple of these that are slightly different. Takala and Cookie. If they're alive, you still get their negative effect unless you also have their associated supply. So you have to have Cookie alive with dynamite to avoid his negative effect, which is not going to happen. You have to have Takata alive with a wooden sledge, or else something bad happens. Or I've got that backwards and it's actually Alaya. Uh, yeah. So you can't actually get through without any negative effects. It just doesn't happen. Let's see. If Danforth is dead, you suffer mental trauma. If you miss the miasmic crystal, you... Oh, it's a frost token. Oh, okay. Yep, that's why I want to get the miasmic crystal in the first scenario. We want to avoid that frost token. Let's see here. If Cookie and we missed the dynamite, yep, got that one. Final night, nothing? Really? Is that... Must be scenario 2. Okay, if Alaya is... Yeah, so Alaya has to be led with a wooden sledge. Alive with a wooden sledge, or we add a frost token. And it's Avery, if he's dead. We add a frost token, or we all get physical trauma. And if Takata's dead, we either add a frost token or suffer mental trauma. Yeah, probably the trauma. I mean, especially the mental trauma is going to be a really easy call with Carolyn on the team. I think we have 3 people packing the mirror, hallowed mirror. And especially if we have Dr. Mala in play, the trauma is not as big a deal as the frost tokens for us. So that is, wow, in a nutshell. I think that's it. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what we get out of this. Um, what's the story going to be like? Who's going to die? How much experience are we going to get? I mean, we're going to get 8 off the hop. We're going to get, let's say we'll get 5 into the Forbidden Peaks. And maybe, I think it's 2 in Fatal, we'll get 2 out of Ice and Death 3. Maybe 2 in Fatal Mirage. So we're looking at 17 XP going into the final scenario. Going into the final 2 scenarios. That's not that bad. It is a little low. Hmm. Hey, Guardians don't need XP, right? Right? All right. This is a potential path. Will we end up using this? I don't know, but it was good as an exercise to go through this just to see what our options were and to get an idea of how our choices will impact things. And it was good to see, starting with you have to start with something like keep Mala alive. Okay, great. Now we know which side of Fatal Mirage we have to focus on, because otherwise there's just way too much out there. Um, you don't even know where to start. So that's that. If you have any thoughts, please, please, please post them below, and I will take everything into consideration. And if not, hey, this could give someone else ideas for their Ironman run. Best of luck to everyone who's going to be doing this challenge, and we will see you next time. Good night, everybody.